Hey there, got a sec? I want you to visualize this dream scenario with me. You're waking up energized and ready to tackle anything because every single day you get to do what you're passionate about. You believe in what you're doing in your career or business, and you're living a happy, abundant, and fulfilled life. You, my friend, are living at your highest potential while making an impact in those around you. There is no more feelings of being powerless, overwhelmed, or that you don't have control. You're fully empowered and clear on your purpose. Can you imagine? Well, my friend, I have good news. It is totally possible to do what fires you up while making money and creating a legacy that empowers the world. This is why I'd love to invite you to my Energize Your Potential Masterclass. In this free training, I'm sharing 3 simple strategies you can implement right now to boost your clarity in career and find your purpose. Whether you're in a career or business that you like, but your inner voice is telling you that you're meant for more. Or maybe you're seeking a career shift and you have some clarity but need the right tools and support to move forward with your goals. Or maybe you're in between. Wherever you are, I've created this masterclass with you in mind. You can register in ybcoaching.com/energize to reserve your spot, and I'll see you there. Go to ybcoaching.com/energized. Welcome to another episode of With Clarity and Purpose, and I am super excited for today's topic because it's all about intuition, about tuning into your own input and just trusting your gut, trusting that first response you get after you ask yourself a question. And let me tell you a story first. The other day, I just got this feeling that I wanted to start publishing in Instagram just daily messages. And I wanted it to be something creative. I had done this before with my 100-day meditation challenge. I was meditating every single day. And then after my meditation, I would record a 5 to 8 minutes video on any insights I got in my meditation practice. So this time I wanted it to be different. And I was like, okay, how can I make it more creative? How can I do something a little bit outside of the box? And I thought of Oracle cards. If you are not familiar with Oracle cards, they are simply cards with illustrations that have a short message. That's all you need to know. And I was like, ooh, it would be cool just to shuffle the cards and ask for the intention of the day and then pull a card and just start talking about how I feel about that card and talking about that message, what that means to me, because a lot of people can benefit from it. I've done it now for a couple of weeks, and every single thing that we talk about, every single message has been really meaningful in context of mindset and empowerment. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And again, it was just this calling, I call it download, that I got the other day while simply just thinking about the intention for the day. And I just followed this gut feeling. And I started recording every day, and people really liked it. So they were messaging me and they were like, oh my God, I love these messages. And honestly, I'm doing it for myself because I always like to set the intention for today. But in sharing it with others, I'm also adding value to others. So anyways, the other day I go to sleep and I start dreaming, and I have a dream with this word Delphi. And in the dream, I tell myself, remember this word Delphi. And then I remember having another dream. And in that dream, I was telling to myself, I cannot forget this word Delphi, because I told myself in another dream that I couldn't forget it. And I remember after that second dream, just waking up and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot forget this word, Delphi. And then I had another dream related to that. And I was so worried that I would forget the name or the word that I kept repeating it to myself, like Delphi, Delphi, in my dreams, in my awake state. It was just something really interesting. So I wake up and I tell Cody, I dreamt that I couldn't forget this word Delphi. And I was like, what is Delphi? I don't even know what that is. And then I was like, it must mean something. I went to Google and then I typed Delphi. And Delphi is a very famous place in Greece where they had the most prominent oracle, okay, based on their stories, of course. And this oracle would tell people what to happen. It would predict, right? Again, what I'm doing every day with my oracle cards in Instagram is not predicting. I'm just giving a message. The same would happen with or without cards. So I'm not predicting. Just want to get that across. It's just an intuitive message more than anything. But I had this dream. And when I read it in Google, like this place that was the place of a very prominent oracle in Greece, I remember that I had been there. Crazy. I actually went to Greece probably like 5 years ago. And I remember going to that place, to Delphi. But honestly, consciously, I didn't remember any of it. And it was interesting that it was connected with the oracle cards that I was pulling every day. And I reminded myself how precious the mind is. Now, I'm telling you this, and you may be thinking, how is this related to intuition? That is exactly what intuition is. Let's put things into perspective. We have the conscious mind, which is the one that is aware of what we are doing right now, where we are. And we have the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the one operating most of things at all times. Right now, it's taking care of your breath. It's taking care of how everything works in your body. It's taking care of your behavior, your beliefs. There are so many things that are at the subconscious level. Now, the subconscious mind is a super mega computer. So it can absorb a lot more information than the conscious mind can. Actually, it's estimated that around you, there are always 2 million bits per second of information. This is coming from a book called Flow. And out of the 2 million bits per second of information, we can only consciously process 126 bits per second. This is almost zero, everyone. So it is so important because often we think that everything is conscious, that change is conscious, that beliefs are conscious, but we are having the bulk of the work happening in our body, in our mind, and everywhere else is at the subconscious level. Now, the subconscious has the capacity to store every single memory. I mean, honestly, it has almost unlimited capacity. And at times, we may get those downloads from the subconscious mind that sometimes they don't make sense to you, but they are there within you. That is exactly why I was doing the oracle cards. Then I had this random dream about Delphi. And then I kept having dreams about Delphi, which Delphi resulted to be the place in Greece where a very prominent oracle used to live, per the legends, right? I don't know if this happened in reality or not. Now, my conscious mind didn't know that, but my subconscious mind, for some reason, it processed the word oracle, and during my dreams, it bubbled up the information of that place I had been 6 years ago. The subconscious mind, as I mentioned, is a mega computer. So it's always processing and it's always trying to connect the dots to give you the information so you can make the best decisions for yourself. Now, the best decisions, I don't mean perfect decisions, because I truly believe that when we make decisions and we get the results we were not expecting, is because we needed to get a lesson at that moment. We needed to learn something. But how we define intuition and how psychology today defines intuition is basically a process that gives us the ability to know something directly without analytic reasoning, bridging the gap between the conscious and non-conscious parts of our mind, just like my dream, Oracle Delphi, which was crazy, and also between instinct and reason. So sometimes when we talk about intuition, we think of this woo-woo stuff that comes from nowhere, but it's not true. Intuition is also the connection to the memories and the knowledge that is stored at the subconscious level that we are not aware of, but it has been there for a long time, and maybe from yesterday or maybe from today. You gotta remember, when you enter a grocery store, there is a lot of information around you, but consciously you can just be aware of a few bits. The subconscious mind, on the opposite, is absorbing a lot of information that you're not even aware of. That's why subliminal messages in images and ads are a thing. Honestly, the most powerful companies and corporations in the world, they study how the mind works because they want to influence the consumer. And let me tell you, that information that you're receiving at that moment, that sometimes we call our gut or our intuition, it's coming from the lessons and the knowledge that you have gathered throughout the years. So just following that gut and that intuition, it develops a muscle of self-trust and confidence. I was conducting recently a couple of, like testimonials and feedback interviews to the students of Discover Your Purpose program. And I was asking them, what was your biggest takeaway? And honestly, a lot of them, one of the biggest takeaways was just trusting their gut. They learned for the first time to trust their own input, to trust that inner voice. Because even in my digital course and with my coaching clients, I'm always asking them questions. I'm always also running them through techniques and procedures to release any mental, emotional baggage, to define their goals. There are so many things that we do all together in the process. And when I ask a question, I always notice my clients and students, they start thinking and rationalizing and overthinking. And I always remind them, just tell me the first thing that comes to mind, because that is the thing that we need to work with. And let me remind you something. How many times you have been in a situation where your gut told you since the beginning, that's not the right relationship. That's not the right career opportunity. That's not the right job. That's not the right friendship. How many times we have heard that inner voice and we have decided to ignore it? Many times. Even with my first corporate job in oil and gas, I had this inner voice. Honestly, even during my chemical engineering degree, I had this inner voice that was telling me, this is not it for you. And then throughout the years, because I kept ignoring it, it kept getting louder and louder and louder. And that's what happens, my friend. When we ignore this inner voice and we try to just hide it, believe me, the mind can suppress information, but it doesn't mean that it disappeared. It means that it's still there. And one day, sometimes when you least expect it, it's gonna bubble up back to surface. And it's gonna ask you to take attention of that and do something about it. It's gonna ask you for attention and you're gonna feel it. And when you feel it, my friend, it is time to take action. It is time to do something about it. So I think it's really important that you start trusting yourself, because here's the thing. We rely all the time to trust on others' inputs of our situations, on others' opinions. And let me tell you something, we are all trying to figure out ourselves. So asking someone else that is trying to figure out themselves about important decisions in your life that require your own input is like a blind leading another blind. It just doesn't make sense. And what if you don't have that person in the future? I think the muscle of intuition and just trusting in your own input, and the first thing that comes to mind, just that inner voice, and going with it, is gonna be a huge tool for your personal development, your growth, and everything else. And believe me, once I started to trust my intuition, the fulfillment and the self-confidence I felt skyrocketed. Because self-confidence a lot of times is linked to feeling in control. And even though there are situations that are uncomfortable, but you know they are the right ones, when you make them, you're gonna strengthen that self-confidence muscle, because now you're in control. Now you're doing the hard thing. Now you're showing up. And it is so important to recognize that. I want to also point you to this data. Out of the sample of several CEOs, 85% confirm that they make decisions based on their intuition. Now, I came from consulting before transitioning to full-time entrepreneurship, and I know the importance of data-driven decisions, right? So I'm not saying don't look at the data and just do everything out of your intuition. Even with data, the data itself doesn't do anything. The data needs interpretation. And that interpretation comes from your knowledge. And that intuition, remember, is directly linked to the knowledge that is at the subconscious level, that you're not even conscious that is there. Intuition is not only this woo-woo stuff. Intuition is directly linked to what you know already at the subconscious level. When things bubbled up for you, just trust it, because that builds that muscle of self-confidence and that muscle that you are in control, that you can tune into your own input and live a life with purpose. Now, what are the things that I usually do and I usually recommend my coaching clients and students to do in order to strengthen this muscle? The first one is meditate. I'm just a huge fan of meditation. I've been doing it. I started back in 2012 when my uncle introduced me to meditation, and I never looked back. I just kept doing it, because the more you meditate and the more you allow that space for you to get comfortable with who you are, get comfortable with exploring yourself, get curious about the thoughts that are coming while you're sitting there in silence, or maybe with a guided meditation. Honestly, between silence and guided, I prefer silence, because it allows me to start noticing, what is coming up? What are the thoughts? Why am I feeling how I'm feeling? So I think meditating, and I would start maybe with, if you're not used to meditating, maybe with 3 minutes every day in the morning, and focus on consistency rather than perfection. If you don't have 3 minutes, do 1, but do something. The other, when sometimes I struggle with overthinking, and I get overwhelmed, and I just I know I'm in my head, right? And like Tony says, when you're in your head, you're dead. Something that I do is that I put my hand, my right hand or left hand, it doesn't matter, in my heart. And then I ask myself, what's the intention and how can I serve? I just ask myself a question that takes me back to the whole why of what I'm doing. And it also focuses on the desired outcome, which is to provide service, right, to all of you at the end of the day. I'm talking specifically about my business, but even in relationship, sometimes I have to break the pattern of operating from the head and start acting with the heart, right? So when you put your hands in the heart and you ask a question of whatever you're seeking the answer for, you'll be surprised with the things that come up. Super important, my friend. Trust your intuition. Remember that whatever you're hearing, that inner voice, it's coming from you. It's not coming from anywhere else. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode, and I really hope you start practicing trusting your own input and your intuition, because my friend, you're gonna notice a huge shift in your energy, in your fulfillment, and in your joy. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening at With Clarity and Purpose. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Sharing is caring. Please share with your friends and family so we can continue building an empowered community together. I'll see you next week.